My name is Jess, and if you had asked me a year ago who I was, I wouldn't have had an answer for you. I was lost, stuck in the cycle of addiction, making promises I couldn't keep, and failing the people who mattered most, especially my daughter Skylar. She was the light of my life, the reason I woke up every day, but I still couldn't seem to get it right. I wasn't the mother she deserved, and that weighed on me like a burden I couldn't shake. But something shifted. Maybe it was the moment I hit rock bottom, or maybe it was when I looked at Skylar's face and realized I had to change for her, not just for me. I knew I couldn't keep letting her down, so I started fighting for myself, for her, for a future where I could be the mother she needed. It hasn't been easy, and I've made mistakes along the way, but I'm determined to do better. One step at a time, I'm rebuilding my life, and this time I won't give up, not again. I never expected my life to get turned upside down the way it did that day. I had always been trying to do right by my daughter Skylar. She was everything to me, and I promised her that I would be there for her no matter what. But it's hard, you know? It's hard to change when everything around you is pushing you back into the old habits. The addiction, the lies, the broken promises. It's like I'm constantly fighting against myself. Fighting against the past that always seems to drag me back. And then came Maddie. She wasn't like other people I had met in the recovery meetings or the rehab centers. She was different. Maddie had millions of followers on social media, using her platform to talk about recovery and doing good. She was an inspiration, they said. Everyone looked up to her. But somehow, I felt like there was something off about her. She had the words, but I wasn't sure if her actions lined up with them, and I should have trusted my gut. It all came crashing down the moment I tried to do something right again. My daughter's 7th birthday was coming up, and I was determined to keep my promise to her. After everything I had put her through, I owed her that much. I was going to show up clean, and I was going to bring her the cake I promised her last year, the cake she deserved. But of course, things never go as planned. Not with me. I had saved up enough money to buy the cake, and I was about to head out to the bakery when I ran into Maddie again. She looked so put together, as always, flashing that perfect smile. She offered me help, like she always did, but it wasn't the kind of help I needed. Not really. She offered me more words, more encouragement, more of that social media-fueled positivity that just felt empty. I should have been more focused. I should have kept my eyes on the goal, Skylar's birthday. But instead, I ended up trusting Maddie with something I shouldn't have. I told her about the money I had saved, the cake I was going to buy, and how important this moment was for me. But as I left, feeling a little too proud of myself for getting back on track, I never imagined how it would all come crashing down. It was only later, when I went to pick up Skylar from my mom's, that I realized the money was gone. Gone. And I was blamed. Of course I was blamed. My mom thought I'd stolen the money. She thought I was using again. How could she not? I had heard her so many times before, I didn't even know where to begin explaining that I wasn't lying this time. "Mom, please, you can't do this," I begged. "I promised her I'd be there. I promised Skylar, please, you've got to believe me." But my mom wasn't having it. She shook her head, and her voice broke as she spoke. "You're lying again, Jess. How can you even look me in the eye and expect me to believe you?" I wanted to scream, to tell her that I was clean, that I was trying, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I turned around and walked out, feeling the weight of my failures pressing down on me. It wasn't just about the money. It wasn't just about the cake. It was about everything I had promised Skylar, all the times I'd failed her. And that's when I saw him, Maddie's so-called man, Charlie. He was there watching me like he knew something I didn't. He was part of her crew, the ones who were always around, helping with the charity drives and acting like they were saving the world. But as I looked at him, something clicked in my mind. He wasn't just some random guy. I had seen him around before, in the background of Maddie's streams, always there, always smiling, always acting like he was part of something bigger. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know what had happened. Where had the money gone? What had happened to the cake money? And why had everyone turned on me again? I found myself outside trying to clear my head when I saw the security camera footage from the store. I could hardly believe my eyes. There he was, Charlie, walking out of the store with a bag that looked awfully familiar, the one I had been holding in my hands just a few hours earlier. That was it. That was the proof I needed. I knew I couldn't just let this slide, not again. So, I did what I had to do. I tracked down Maddie, and I confronted her. "Maddie, I know what you did," I said, my voice shaking with anger and frustration. "You took the money. You stole from me." She tried to deny it at first, tried to laugh it off like it was no big deal. But I could see the panic in her eyes. I could see the guilt creeping in. The thing about Maddie was that she could fake it for the camera, she could fake it for her followers, but I knew the truth. She wasn't helping anyone. She was just using people for her own gain. She was a fraud. You don't get it, Jess, Maddie said, her voice cold. You're just a small part of my brand. I don't give out money. I get my followers to do that for me. They're the suckers, not me. I don't get rich by giving my money away. I was stunned. I couldn't believe the words coming out of her mouth. She was exposing herself right there, in front of me, without even realizing it. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I pulled up the footage, showing it to her followers. This was the real Maddie, the one they didn't see behind the scenes. I couldn't let her continue pretending to be something she wasn't. Isn't this you on the security footage? I asked, holding up my phone. Her face turned pale as she saw the video. She tried to stop the stream, to shut it all down, but it was too late. Her followers were already reacting. The truth was out there. You can't just come in here and ruin everything, Maddie yelled, trying to fight back. No, I'm exposing you for the fraud that you are, I said, feeling my heart race with adrenaline. You're all talk, no action. You say you're helping people, but you're just taking advantage of them. It felt good. It felt right. I was done being quiet, done letting people like her walk all over me. The moment I hit post and broadcasted the security footage to her millions of followers, it was like the whole world turned against her. Maddie's face went from disbelief to utter panic. She started furiously trying to shut down the live stream, but the damage was already done. The comments flooded in. Disgust, anger, betrayal. Her followers, the ones who believed in her brand, were now questioning everything they had supported. For a moment, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. But at the same time, I felt hollow. It wasn't about getting back at Maddie, it was about clearing my name. And yet, as I watched her flail, I realized that the truth was out, and now I could finally start the healing process. Maybe this would help me fix things with my mom. Maybe now she'd finally see I wasn't lying. Maddie, still in shock, grabbed her phone and ended the stream, but the damage was irreversible. You can't do this to me, Jess, she seethed, her voice shaky. You don't know what you're messing with. I've built all of this. You can't just expose me like that. But there was no turning back. You were exposed a long time ago, Maddie, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. You just didn't think anyone would notice. Her face twisted in anger, but she didn't say anything else. Instead, she stormed off, leaving me standing in the middle of the room, feeling the adrenaline wear off and the weight of everything I had just done settle in. For a moment, I almost regretted it. What had I done? Was this really the right way to fix things? But then I remembered Skylar and my mom, and I knew it had to be done. The next few days were a blur. The social media world was abuzz, with Maddie's followers turning against her, people finally realizing what a fraud she had been. But all of that felt like a distant noise compared to the pain I had at home. I went back to my mom's house to try and mend the damage I had done. Skylar's birthday was tomorrow, and I was determined to keep my promise to her. I had to get the cake, no matter what. When I arrived, my mom was sitting at the kitchen table, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. I don't know what you were thinking, Jess, she said, her voice tight with frustration. You can't just do things like this and expect everything to be okay. Skylar's been waiting for you, but I don't think she understands what's really going on here. I could feel my heart racing as I stood there, unsure of how to explain. I opened my mouth, but the words didn't come out the way I wanted. I'm sorry, Mom, I said finally, the weight of everything on my chest. I know I messed up, but I swear to you I'm clean now. I'm not lying anymore. My mom sighed, her shoulders slumping with exhaustion. You've hurt me so many times, Jess. I don't know if I can believe you this time. You keep saying the same things and then you go out and do the same things. You said you'd change and then you let me down again. I nodded, feeling like I was suffocating. I know, I whispered. I don't deserve your trust, but I swear I'm not lying now. This time is different. I need you to believe me. I need you to trust me, even if it's just this once. There was a long silence before she finally spoke again. It's not just about you, Jess. It's about Skylar. She's the one who has to live with your mistakes. Do you think she's going to forget this? I felt my heart break. I promised her I'd be here. I promised her I'd be a good mom. I can't let her down again. My mom looked at me, her expression softening just a little. You're right. Skylar deserves better. She paused for a moment before standing up. I don't know if I can trust you right now, Jess, but I'm willing to give you one last chance. But if you mess this up, there's no coming back from it. I felt like a weight had been lifted off my chest. Maybe this wasn't the perfect solution, but it was a start. I had a second chance, and I wasn't going to let it slip away. Later that evening, I found myself at a bakery, holding my breath as I walked in. The cake I had promised Skylar was right there, sitting in the display case, waiting for me to pick it up. I couldn't believe it. I had almost lost everything, but now I was standing here, ready to bring my daughter the birthday cake I had promised her. As I drove back to my mom's house, I thought about everything that had happened. Maddie, the lies, the betrayal, and now, this. The possibility that I could still get things right. That maybe I could be the mother Skylar deserved. When I walked into the house, Skylar was waiting for me in the living room. She had a big smile on her face, her eyes shining with excitement. "Mommy, you're here!" she shouted, running up to me and giving me a big hug. I felt my heart swell with love as I hugged her back. "Happy birthday, Skylar," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I'm so sorry for everything, but I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." Skylar looked up at me, her face full of joy. "I knew you'd come. I knew you wouldn't let me down." My heart broke again, but this time it was different. This time I was ready to fight, ready to make sure I never broke her heart again. Later that evening, as we sat around the table with cake and presents, I couldn't help but think about the journey that had brought me here. It wasn't over, not by a long shot, but tonight, for the first time in a long time, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I was on the right path. The next morning, after everything had settled down, I received a message. It was from someone I hadn't expected to hear from, Maddie. "Jess," it said, "I'm sorry. I've been thinking a lot about what happened. I know I've done a lot of things wrong and I've hurt people in the process, but I wanted you to know that I'm trying to change. Maybe I can help you in some way." I stared at the message for a long time, unsure of what to do. Did I want to hear from her? Did I want to even consider the idea of letting her back into my life? But I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just about Maddie anymore. It was about me. It was about Skylar. And it was about the people who had stuck by me through everything. I typed a response, my fingers trembling slightly. "I don't know if I can trust you, Maddie, but thank you. I'll keep that in mind. I'm just focused on my daughter now. That's all that matters." I sent the message and put my phone down. For the first time, I wasn't worried about what others thought. I wasn't worried about the past. I was moving forward, and for Skylar, I would fight every step of the way. The days following Skylar's birthday were a blur. I tried to focus on the present, on building the future I promised my daughter. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering if I was truly on the right path. Skylar had been so happy, so full of life after her birthday party, but I knew the truth. She had been let down too many times. She trusted me, and I couldn't bear the thought of betraying her trust again. I had to prove that I wasn't the same person I used to be. But the weight of my past mistakes hung over me, like a shadow that I couldn't outrun. I tried to make things right with my mom. She was still hesitant, still unsure whether or not to believe in me again. But every time I spoke to her, I saw the tiniest flicker of hope in her eyes. I knew it would take time. Trust couldn't be rebuilt overnight. It wasn't just about the cake anymore. It wasn't about proving Maddie or anyone else wrong. It was about showing Skylar that I was worthy of being her mother, that I could be the person she needed me to be. But then, out of nowhere, Maddie reached out to me again. I didn't expect her to message me again. Honestly, after everything, I had convinced myself that I had no place in her world anymore. But her message was different this time. It wasn't full of excuses or deflections. It was a simple, almost apologetic message. "Jess, I'm really sorry for what happened. I know I messed up and I hurt people, but I want to try and make things right. If you ever need help, I want to be there for you. I can help Skylar too if you're open to it." I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to write it off as just another one of Maddie's manipulative moves. But something about her words felt different. It wasn't just about her brand anymore. It was about accountability. And for the first time, I felt like maybe, just maybe, she had realized the consequences of her actions. I sat on the message for days, unsure of what to do. I could feel the tension building inside me. Part of me wanted to shut Maddie out, to keep her out of my life for good. But there was another part of me that was tired of fighting alone. I had always felt like I had to do everything on my own, but maybe it was time to accept help, even from someone like Maddie. Finally, I made the decision to meet her. We met at a small coffee shop on the edge of town. I was nervous, but I tried to keep my composure. Maddie was already sitting at a table when I arrived, looking more serious than I had ever seen her. She wasn't the bubbly, over-the-top influencer anymore. There was a rawness to her that I hadn't expected. She looked up as I approached and smiled faintly. "Hey, Jess, I'm glad you came." I sat down, still unsure of what to say. "I don't know why I'm here," I admitted. "I don't know if I can trust you. I don't know if I should." "I get it," Maddie said quietly, her eyes sincere. "I've done a lot of things I regret. I thought helping others was just about looking good on camera, but I've learned that it's about more than that. It's about really making a difference. And I know I haven't done that. Not with you, not with anyone." Her words hit me harder than I expected. It was almost as if I was hearing a different person than the one I had confronted. The woman in front of me now wasn't the influencer I had once envied. She was a person, flawed but trying to change. I've hurt people too, Jess, Maddie continued. I've used people for my own benefit, and I'm not proud of it. But I want to do better. I want to help you and Skylar, if you'll let me. I didn't know what to say. The old me would have brushed it off, told her to leave me alone. But now, after everything, I realized that maybe it wasn't just about me anymore. Maybe it was about giving Skylar a future where she didn't have to carry my mistakes on her shoulders. I'm not sure how you can help, I said, feeling vulnerable. But if you really mean it, maybe we can try. Maddie nodded. I know I've got a long way to go to make up for everything I've done, but I'll start by helping you with whatever you need. No strings attached. For the first time, I felt like maybe Maddie wasn't just pretending to be someone she wasn't. She was starting to show who she could really be. Over the next few weeks, things began to change. Maddie kept her word. She helped me get back on my feet, offering financial support for Skylar's school, and even organizing a fundraiser to help cover the costs of Skylar's medical needs. It wasn't about cameras or followers anymore. It was real help, real change. Skylar began to notice the difference too. She saw how hard I was working to make up for lost time, and I saw the trust beginning to build between us again. It wasn't easy, but every day was a step closer to the relationship we both wanted. Maddie also worked to make amends with her followers. She stopped pretending to be something she wasn't, and people began to see the change in her too. It wasn't an overnight transformation, but I could see that she was genuinely trying, and in the end that was enough. It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was a real one. The truth about Maddie was out there, but so was the truth about me. I was still working to rebuild my life, but for the first time, I felt like I had people on my side. Skylar was thriving, and I was doing everything in my power to give her the life she deserved. And Maddie, I didn't know what the future held for us, but I knew that for once she was being honest with me, and with herself. As for me, I was no longer defined by my past. I was a mother, and I was finally starting to understand what it meant to truly change. The days after meeting with Maddie were filled with conflict inside my mind. On one hand, I could take her offer, take the help, make it easier on myself. But on the other hand, I didn't want to keep depending on others. I had to prove to myself, and more importantly to Skylar, that I could do this on my own. I knew it wouldn't be easy. I wasn't naive enough to think I could just turn my life around in a few weeks, but I had a promise to keep. I had a daughter who needed me, and I couldn't let her down again. I had a job interview lined up for the next week at a local diner, and I was determined to make it work. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. It was a chance to prove that I could work hard, earn a paycheck, and show Skylar that she didn't have to live a life defined by the mistakes of the past. I woke up early every day, putting on my best clothes, well, what little I had, and doing my best to look presentable. Skylar was still asleep when I left the house, but I made sure to kiss her on the forehead before I went. She was my driving force, the reason I was doing all of this. The first day at the diner was rough. The hours were long, the work was hard, and I could feel the weight of the world on my shoulders as I wiped down tables and took orders. But something felt different this time. I wasn't doing it for anyone else. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I was doing it for myself, for Skylar. The tips weren't much, but every dollar felt like a small victory. Every shift I worked, I felt a little bit stronger, a little bit more capable. I wasn't just talking about change anymore, I was living it. As the weeks passed, I started to get better at the job. I was more efficient, faster with my orders, and I earned the respect of the regulars. And then one day, as I was serving coffee to a woman at the counter, she smiled at me. "You know," she said, "I've been watching you work for a while now. You've got a good attitude. I like the way you carry yourself. I think you've got potential. Have you ever considered working in management?" I blinked, surprised. "Me? A manager?" She nodded. "Yeah, I've been the manager here for a long time, and I can tell when someone's got it. You could be running this place, Jess." I didn't know how to respond at first. I had always thought of myself as someone who could never make it in the real world. But here, in this little diner, I was being seen for the first time. Not as a failure, but as someone capable of doing more. "Really?" I asked, almost disbelieving. She smiled again. "You've got the work ethic, Jess. I think you could do it. Let me talk to the owner. I'll put in a good word for you." It wasn't a guarantee, but it was an opportunity. For the first time in years, I felt like I had a chance to change my life on my own terms. I didn't need Maddie's help. I didn't need anyone else's handouts. All I needed was the chance to prove myself, and that's exactly what I was going to do. By the end of the week, I was promoted to shift supervisor. It wasn't a glamorous job, but it was a step up. And that step made me feel like I was finally heading in the right direction. I had earned it. With my own hands, with my own sweat, and most importantly, with my own commitment to my daughter and to myself. At home, things started to feel more stable. Skylar noticed the change in me. She could see that I was working hard, that I was trying. And for the first time in a long time, I saw pride in her eyes. She didn't just believe in me. She was starting to trust me again. One evening after dinner, Skylar came up to me with a small piece of paper in her hand. "Mom," she said, "I wrote this for you." I looked at her, confused. "What is it, sweetie?" She handed me the paper and I read the words aloud. "I love you, Mom. You are the best mom ever. I'm so proud of you." Tears welled up in my eyes. "Skylar," I whispered, "you don't know how much this means to me." She hugged me tightly, and I held her in my arms, feeling the weight of everything that had come before and everything that was yet to come. I was doing this, I was changing, I was proving to myself, to Skylar, and to everyone who had doubted me that I wasn't just a screw-up. I was a mother who could stand on her own 2 feet. As I continued working at the diner and rebuilding my relationship with Skylar, something shifted. I realized I didn't need the approval of Maddie or anyone else to be proud of what I was accomplishing. I had spent so much of my life looking for external validation, trying to please others. But now, for the first time, I felt like I was doing it for the right reasons. Skylar was thriving in school, and I was there for her, every step of the way. I didn't have to hide behind excuses or pretend I was someone I wasn't. I had a job I was proud of, I had a daughter who loved me, and I had a future to look forward to. One evening after work, I sat down with Skylar and asked her about her day. She smiled at me, a smile I hadn't seen in years. "It was great, Mom. I got a gold star for my project." I grinned back. "That's amazing, Skylar. You're really doing great." And in that moment, I realized something. I had spent so much time feeling like I was trapped in my past, but now I had the power to build my future. I had Skylar by my side, and that was all I needed. As for Maddie, I hadn't heard from her in a while. Maybe she was still dealing with her own demons. Maybe she was still trying to be the person she wanted to be. But I didn't need her anymore. I didn't need anyone to tell me who I was. I knew exactly who I was. I was a mother, and I was enough. Jess's story is an emotional journey about change and the determination not to give up, no matter how hard life may be. Despite facing many failures, Jess not only found strength within herself, but also realized that every decision and action in life can make a big difference. She didn't need to rely on others to change, but found her own capability in standing up, working hard, and caring for her daughter. The lesson from this story is that if we believe in ourselves and are willing to face challenges, we can overcome anything, no matter how our past may have been. Did Jess's story touch your heart? Do you believe that we can change ourselves and build a better future, even if we've made mistakes in the past? Share your thoughts on Jess's journey and the lessons you've learned from this story. Have you ever faced a big challenge in your life and decided to make a change? Leave a comment and share your story with us. If you found this story inspiring, don't forget to like and share it to motivate others. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow more amazing stories. Let's share the power of change and perseverance together.